Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, July 9th. I'm your host, Tom Moore. The Texas game in 52 days, the game against Michigan in 143 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at GratefulGriddleOH.com. Today's show, we're going to be talking about some of the most unbreakable records on the offensive side of the football for the Ohio State Buckeyes. We're just talking about the Ohio State record book and individual records, not team records. There are some stuff in there that you go through it and it's like, oh boy, I cannot foresee a possible way that someone could break this record. And some of those records have been set pretty recently. We're going to be going through all of those with my buddy Kevin Noon of BuckeyeHuddle.com. We'll just real quickly run through the list that I put together, and then we'll be drafting the ones that we think are the most unbreakable among that list. First one, most of these are good records. The first one, not so good. 46 career interceptions thrown by Art Schleister. That's the first one. Pete Johnson, running back in the 1970s, Archie Griffin's fullback, 56 career touchdowns on the ground. That's a pretty good one as well. Third one, we're just going in increasing order in terms of the number, and we'll rank them later. So the third one is 73. That would be pass attempts by Dwayne Haskins in a single game at Purdue in 2018. The next one, this is the most recent, and also this is sort of a trifecta. 76 receptions, 1,315 yards, 15 touchdowns, all as a true freshman by Jeremiah Smith. So those are Ohio State true freshman receiving records. Those three, any and all of them probably belong on this list somewhere. Next up, 121. That is John Frank's career mark for receptions by a tight end in a career. The next one, 147. That is J.T. Barrett's total career touchdowns responsible for rushing and passing together. Next up, 271. That is rushing yards and a half by Trey Sermon against Northwestern in the 2020 Big Ten Championship game. Next up, another one you're probably going to remember, 347. That would be Jackson Smith-Njigba's record for receiving yards in a single game. That came in the 2022 Rose Bowl against Utah. Next up, same game, 573. C.J. Stroud's record for passing yards in a single game. That was in that Rose Bowl again, with most of those going to Jackson Smith-Njigba. Now you're going to be hearing a bunch about Archie Griffin, 924. That would be his career total of rushes. So the number of career rushes for Archie Griffin, 924. 1,000, that is Tate Martell's single game completion percentage. He is the only player in Ohio State history to have at least 10 pass attempts and complete all of them in a single game. That was against Rutgers in 2018. 5,589, that's Archie Griffin's career rushing yardage. 6,559, that's Archie Griffin's career total yardage. And then the last one, 9,434, that's J.T. Barrett's career passing yardage. All of those substantially separated from first place to second place in the record books. So, Kevin, we'll go through and we'll just kind of go through our top 3 or 4 or whatever we have time for here. Go ahead. Which of those records strikes you as the most unbreakable in the short to medium term of Ohio State football?
I'm going to go with the 73 pass attempts by Dwayne Haskins. That obviously is a sign of a completely broken running game. And while you may have an offensive coordinator and a head coach that both really like to throw the ball, you're not going to necessarily win many games throwing it around 73 times. And I just don't think that – I think that with the clock rules speeding up and taking a dozen plays out of a game, offensive plays out of a game, you would have to – I mean, how many games has Ohio State had 73 offensive plays? I think that if you went through and looked at the last couple of seasons since they've sped up the game so they can service more commercials, there have probably not been a lot of games where they've had 73 offensive plays. So that would mean that they would have to go 98, 99, 100, 110% throwing the ball. So, no.
Yeah, and I actually looked that up as part of this research. In the 2024 season, Ohio State had 16 games. Only one of them did they have more than 73 plays on offense. That was against Michigan State. They had 75 in that game. So just game by game, they had 64, 72, 57, 75, 65, 68, 47 plays against Nebraska, 64 against Penn State, 66, 57, 55, 59, 64, 57, 57 in the Cotton Bowl, and 62 in the national championship. So yes, that one, I thought for sure that was maybe the clear-cut best one on the board, just because it's such a historical outlier. No one else in Ohio State history has thrown more than 54 passes in a game, so he's already 19 clear of anyone else. And that's before you have the clock rules and the adjustment to the sort of pace of play where you're not even getting 73 snaps a game. So yeah, I think that was an excellent choice for the number one pick on this list. So well done there. I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to go with the negative one here. And, you can psychoanalyze that all you want, but 46 career interceptions by Art Schlichter. Now, he is way, way, way clear of anyone in Ohio State history. He was a 4-year starter. His freshman year as a true freshman, 1978, Woody Hayes' last year, 21 interceptions and 4 touchdowns. If you throw a 4-to-21 ratio of touchdowns to interceptions, you are on the slow boat to FCS, perhaps before Thanksgiving dinner is served at this point. So you're very unlikely to get there in that in that way where you throw 21 picks in a season. 46 to get there without throwing 21 picks in a season, you really got to pretty much be a 3 to 4 year starter and throwing way more picks than most Ohio State starters are now. A lot of guys sort of in that 8 to 10 to maybe 12 range. That's about as many as you're seeing these days out of an Ohio State quarterback. So you'd have to be a below average Ohio State quarterback who's minimally a 3-year and possibly 4-year starter. And that just doesn't seem possible to me in the realities of modern college football, especially under Ryan Day. If you're throwing 12, 15 picks a season, you are not going to be the starter next year. You're going to be replaced. So that one seems very unlikely to me to have anyone even get close. The closest anyone to come this century, JT Barrett, he finished with 30, and he was basically a 3.5-year starter, and he got only not even 2/3 of the way there. So I think that one is very, very unlikely to ever get broken.
I'm going to dovetail and do another JT Barrett thing, since you just mentioned JT Barrett, and that's 9,434 yards of career passing yardage. And that's more of a system of, I don't think you're going to see at Ohio State a career college player. And by that, I mean, if you go out and you have a year where you throw for 4,500 yards, if you're draft eligible, you're gone. If you sit there and you do that and you have one more year, maybe you come back and do it another year. But Ohio State, even with all of the throwing and everything else, that's a big number. I mean, that's saying that you're going to have to get 47, 17 over 2 seasons. And because I don't think we're going to see any more 3-year starters. I just don't think Ohio State is not going to have a point of where it's going to be like, well, we're building for next year. Let's bring this guy in and we can get 3 years out of him. I don't see that ever happening. Now, in terms of the numbers being, is it reasonable that somebody could have 3,100 and change seasons? It's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, especially if you're playing 15, 16, 17 games a year. But I just don't think anybody's going to get enough reps to get there. Because, again, if Ohio State's playing a true freshman quarterback, a year one quarterback, it's probably not playing games 13, 14, or it's playing game 13, but it's not playing games 14, 15, 16, and 17. So this is just a math thing, and the math isn't there.
Yeah, I strongly agree with everything you said there. I think we could, there's another JT Barrett one on this list that I think we could almost just throw in there with this one. 147 touchdowns career responsible for. He had 147. The second place person on that list is Braxton Miller with 88. So slightly over half of what JT Barrett had. And JT Barrett was a redshirt freshman starter, but then who played 5 seasons as a college quarterback. Ryan Day has not had a quarterback who was a starter for more than 2 years in a row at his entire time at Ohio State. It was 2 years of JT Barrett when he first got here, 2 years of Justin Fields, 2 years of CJ Stroud, 1 year of Kyle McCord, 1 year of Will Howard, and then if it's Lincoln Hinoles or Julian Sayin, you're probably looking at 2 years and out at that point. So you're not going to, the way they turn over quarterbacks and the way we recruit quarterbacks, you're just not going to see someone who's in there long enough to pile up those numbers, without also being, not so talented as to depart for the NFL, but also talented enough to not get recruited over. That just feels like a very narrow window there. So I'm kind of cheating here. I'm going to lump those two together because it feels like you're sort of having the same conversation there.
I marked it your red on my notes so I don't go to it. And those red are Tom's, yellow are mine. So I'm giving that one to you.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna cheat here, and I'm gonna take the 3 Jeremiah Smith ones. And I know we all literally just watched this happen. A true freshman wide receiver put up 76 catches and 1,315 yards and 15 touchdowns. We just saw it happen. How hard could it be to have it happen again? Well, it took 16 games, but also I still don't think people understand what an insane season that was for Jeremiah Smith. I'm going to do my best to put this in context. We've talked before about the fact that, all the records he was breaking, he broke them all by early November. They were all held by Chris Carter, NFL Hall of Famer Chris Carter. He was the benchmark, and Jeremiah Smith went by him like the road runner going past Wile E. Coyote in about, I wasn't done pilfering my kids' Halloween candy, and all those records were in Jeremiah Smith's wake. But let's just set that aside for right now. You can look and say, okay, Brian Hartline recruits all these immensely talented true freshmen, 5-star wide receivers. You see these guys, he just churns out these first-round draft picks year after year after year. How can you say no one will be able to do that? I'm going to give you the numbers for all of Brian Hartline's 6 first-round NFL draft picks and what they did in their freshman season. Okay? So this is Emeka Egbuka last year, 9 catches, 191 yards, 0 touchdowns. So that was his freshman year. Marvin Harrison Jr. in his freshman year, 11 catches, 139 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jackson Smith and Jigba, and this was the COVID year, but 10 catches, 49 yards, 1 touchdown. Garrett Wilson, huge outlier. 3x what most of these other guys are in several of these categories. 30 catches, 432 yards, 5 touchdowns. Chris Olave, 12 catches, 197 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jamison Williams, who ended up going as a first-round draft pick out of Alabama, but was a Brian Hartline recruit who was a first-round NFL draft pick. 6 catches, 112 yards, 1 touchdown. Okay, all those guys, six future NFL first-round draft pick wide receivers under Brian Hartline, they combined 6 for 2 more catches than Jeremiah Smith, nearly 200 fewer yards, 195 fewer yards, and 2 fewer touchdowns. 6 guys combined compared to Jeremiah Smith in one season. Yeah, he had 16 games. I don't care. It ain't happening again. However good you think Jeremiah Smith is, and whatever a historical outlier you think that season was, it was way more than that.
I agree. I looked at that one. Recency bias kept me from using it because I was just like, there's just going to be somebody's like, as you said to start it, well, we just saw it. I mean, we're in an era of where it can happen. We're not in an era of where another Jeremiah Smith is just going to show up. And you can say what you will about Chris Henry Jr. or Jameer Brown or guys like that who are tabbed for future years, 26, 27 for Ohio State. But Jeremiah, to quote Mark Givler, is an alien, and that it is what it is. I am going to take one of the 3 or 4 Archie Griffin things here. I could make an argument for most of them, but I'm going to say 924 career total rushes. And once again, that comes down to the fact of we're in a very different game, a very different day. I was just talking to somebody on the phone. I was on 97.1 on Tuesday, and we were talking about running backs and everything else. And I said, this is a case of where you're going to have your back may only have 17 carries in a game, and that's going to be considered a lot of work. You're not going to Monty Ball for Wisconsin rushing 45 times is not walking through that door. Archie Griffin, rushing the amount of times that he needed to get to that number is not going to be there. So not only is it a matter of years, running backs certainly have one of the shortest shelf lives out there in terms of the hits that not only that they deliver, but that they also absorb, or that's all of the hits that are there. So are you going to play enough years, and are you going to get enough carries in the game? And okay, this is one where you can be successful and you can play 51 games. You could play 51 games over three years. And we're using a prop here because, all right, let's see what 924 divided by 51 is 18 carries. So that doesn't sound bad, but again, running backs, you got turf toe, you've got a groin pull, you got something else. I just don't see that happening based on what's happening. We're talking about the outer reaches of everything to get to that point, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think you could lump all three of these Archie Griffin ones together because the argument is essentially the same thing you just said. He played for 4 years. He played in an era where you got so many more carries. He played in an era where it was not 3 and out. You played your 4 years, and he played in, they just ran the ball a lot more back then. And so, yeah, Archie Griffin almost 200 carries ahead of J.K. Dobbins, who is second place in in Ohio State's record book, 924 to 725 carries. J.K. Dobbins, of course, left after 3 years because that's what you do if you're a 3-year starter at Ohio State. Rushing career yardage total 5,589. We just saw an exception to the excellent 3-year starter backs leave for the NFL after 3 years. Travion Henderson, of course, just did it. Travion Henderson finished nearly 2,000 yards short of Archie Griffin, 3,761. So basically 1,800 yards short of Archie Griffin, even with 4 years, even with playing 16 games last year. Had some injuries because, of course, you're going to have injuries as a running back. And, of course, you're going to now split carries. Same thing with the career total yardage. Archie Griffin, even bigger gap to, Archie Griffin was 1,397 yards ahead of he was 1,397 yards on average over 4 years. So no one in Ohio State history gotten within 1,000 yards rushing of Archie Griffin. No one in Ohio State history has gotten within 1,400 yards in terms of total yardage of Archie Griffin. So yeah, those are all, you kind of lump them in together. I think those are excellent ones. My last one, I'm going to take Jackson Smith-Njigba, 347 yards in the Rose Bowl, receiving yards in one game. Jackson Smith-Njigba is 94 yards ahead of the second highest total in Ohio State history. That would be Terry Glenn. He had 253. That was the previous record. Jackson Smith-Njigba's game required, you got to remember all the pieces that went into that performance, 347 receiving yards in a game. You had maybe the single greatest quarterback, just pure throwing quarterback in Ohio State history in C.J. Stroud. You also had a leaky Buckeye defense that was constantly, they were playing from behind. They're constantly giving up points. They ended up winning that game 48-45. So they were playing from behind, so they just had to throw. You also had a Utah secondary that this sort of gets lost in a lot of times when people are talking about that game. They were playing a running back at corner. First time he'd played corner in the college game, and Ohio State knew that. Ohio State went after him. You had that going for you. You also finally had two guys who were sitting out that game. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave were both sitting out. So Jackson Smith-Njigba was the only guy who had been the full year starter. Yeah, you had guys step up. Marvin Harrison had 3 touchdowns in that Rose Bowl. But man, you had so many different things coming together to have Jackson Smith-Njigba put up 347 yards receiving in one game. That's one. It's a little like the Dwayne Haskins 73 passes. Even if you do see it again, it's one of those good news, bad news things where if you have a receiver going for that much, that's fantastic. But there's a lot of there's probably a lot of stuff going wrong for that to all be able to happen.
Yeah, it's like the whole situation. Well, I'm leading the league in rebounds. Yeah, you're leading the league in me-bounds. You're a terrible shooter, and you're following your own miss 6-7 times and pumping up numbers. So, yeah, I have no issue with that JSN. Again, I was sitting here thinking, it's like, well, what if JSN got all of Marv's numbers in that game too? I mean, are we ever going to see that type of situation? Hopefully not. In terms of it means, if you keep firing, it's because you can't stop the other team. At some point, you call off the dogs, whether or not that point is in the third quarter, the early fourth quarter, the late fourth quarter. You're generally not going to be running it up. That's just not the nature of the sport. hang 100 on them. Hasn't worked out so well. So you just, I think that's one of those types of performances that I will remember for a very long time. And like Tom, been doing this for a long time, and all the games start to run together after a while. But that one has a very clear image in my mind.
Yeah, that one, when I'm wearing my Rose Bowl hat right now, I also have a poster, and you can't really see it. It's the poster on the wall behind me is from that game, because that was just such an incredible game. I was like, I gotta get something to remember that one by. That 2022 Rose Bowl, 48-45 against the Utah Utes, an absolute classic in Pasadena. So we've been talking about this one for quite a while on the Huddle Board, presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus, debating other records that might fit into this category. We're going to end up doing shows like this on the defense and special teams at some point as well, because there's a lot of interesting stuff to look at. And, this is an Ohio State team that is immensely talented. Will they break some records? Almost certainly. So we'll be talking about the ones that they will and the ones that they won't, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We got our whole team covering this year's Buckeyes. We got our whole team covering recruiting. We got our whole team covering X's and O's, all to make you a smarter football fan. That is all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We hope to see you there. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.